How's it going, everybody? It's Brian Schrader. I'm coming to you with the part 2 video of how to fully flock a hen mallard. So yesterday we covered just the basic flocking, how to apply the flocking to the decoy, and then after we're done, we just discussed how you've got to add 2 coats of flocking to it to toughen it up. So this is the follow-up video to that of how to airbrush the hen mallard. There's a lot of different things that you have to be able to do with an airbrush on a hen mallard specifically. You have to know how to shade. Your brush control has to be pretty good. Pulling straight lines, shading. It can be pretty difficult to do this portion of it, but the end result can turn out pretty good. I went ahead and did one just to show you guys what it'll look like when we're finished. But this is basically what we're working with on the mallard. So that was the one that I flocked. Right here's one that just finished drying yesterday. I added the second coat to it, and now we're going to add some paint to it. So each mallard decoy, or each hen decoy in general, will have different patterns on it. You can kind of see it through the flocking. There's a few different ways you can follow the pattern that's already on the decoy, which that's what I did with the other one, and it turns out great doing it that way. There's other things you can do, kind of make your own patterns. Just change the colors by shading. You can shade in a dark brown and then come over it with a light brown and just do C's, and that looks really nice. It's real smooth. It's really smooth when you do it that way. But this way, I'm just going to show you a little bit of a more basic way to make the decoy look good by following the pattern that's already existed on the decoy itself, with the exception of shading and some of the head details. But anyway, what you'll need for this task is gloves. Just because, at least what I do when I'm testing my brush to make sure it's actually spraying, I'll spray it on my glove and make sure that it's spraying not only that it's spraying, but it's also spraying how I would want it to spray. And you got to think of airbrushing, the paint coming out of the airbrush, like smoother than it would out of a aerosol spray paint can. So a lot of times with spray paint, it kind of sprays everywhere. You want it to come out very evenly and consistent. So you'll have that bottom line right there. You won't have any splatters. It'll be one straight smooth line, and that just shows that the tip's clean in your airbrush. Your pressure is adjusted right on your pressure regulator on your compressor. So there's a couple of types of paint you can get. You can get pre-mixed paint, which is good if you don't want to mix paint. The only caveat to that is sometimes it comes out too thin, and it's kind of hard to apply. You got to be very diligent with it, and you can't really pound the paint in. You got to come over it 3 or 4 times to make sure that it lays nice. What I like to do when I'm laying heavy details is I'll mix paint. So what I use Wicked Colors by Create Tex. I don't know if you can see that from the light, but that's what it looks like. And I'll mix. It depends on the temperature and depends, on your pressure and stuff like that. But I usually mix 5 drops of this to 1 drop of your performance reducer, also by Create Tex, right there. That's just what I found works good out of my airbrush, as also at 20 psi. It gives me that nice even line on the bottom like I showed you guys. So the airbrush that I'll be using today is a Snap-on BF 105. It's very similar to a Badger airbrush. I really like this airbrush. It's just a personal preference. I got it off of eBay. Usually they're right around 300 bucks, and I got 4 airbrushes for 51. I totally scored on it. The type of airbrush this is a gravity-fed, dual-action, internally mixed airbrush. And for people starting out, that's the type of airbrush you probably want to start with. The gravity-fed is through the top, that little cup up there, so it's gravity feeding. The dual action is you press down, get air, pull back, get paint. So that's how that is. And then it internally mixes the air with the air blows off the top of the needle and mixes with the paint, and that gives you your how it makes your lines and how you paint. Sorry, it's not as technical as some people would like, but it's the best I can do for now. Also, what I have recently purchased is a water separator, air water separator for the end of this. And because sometimes when I'd be painting for a long time, even though I already have one on my compressor, it would still build condensation inside my hose. So I got this and it's been great. I paid $5 on eBay for it. Super cheap, and it seems to be working great. It's trapping quite a bit of water, and you don't want water coming up through your gun and off the tip of your brush, because it'll splatter your paint just randomly, and then you'll have a wet spot on your decoy, and it's really hard to dry that out and continue to paint over it if you didn't already mess something up like your lines or something like that. But anyway, I'm gonna do half the decoy and show you guys kind of how I do it. And I mean, if you see half, I mean, I don't think you want to see me airbrush for a half hour on a full decoy. So anyway, I'm gonna get started on it. What I usually do is I'll start off on the head. Turn around so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'll start off by shading the head. So on mallards, the head, they got a black stripe that goes down the center of their head, down to their neck. And when I'm starting a line, I'll fade it. I'll put a light line and see how the brush is spraying and what the color's like. And then I'll slowly bring my brush towards it, which will make a darker line each time I pass over it, as well as when I get closer, the line gets smaller and more constricted, so it makes deeper lines. So anyway. Hen mallards also have a black stripe that goes across their eye. To add an effect to the decoy, what I like to do is I put a light shadow line around the eye itself, and then I'll run my black stripe through the eye and down, just like that. So it comes out looking like that. And this is where you start to shade, and kind of brings out the face, makes it more realistic looking. So any places there would be a shadow naturally, you want to kind of shade darker. You don't have to beat in a bunch of paint. A little bit of shading will completely change the way the decoy looks. So all they did, they darkened up underneath the neck a little bit and around the neck pocket itself, and you can see that it starting to darken up. I'll shadow it in a little bit more. Basically what you're doing with the shadowing is you're showing off the contours of the decoy, or of the duck itself. So the defining certain lines, like where the wings would be, the side plate. So I'll come across just like that. Gives you your line there. And then I'll just start on the front and the breast portion of it. So you can do, at this point, you can do dots or V's, like on the other decoy I flocked, I did V's on the front of it. This one I'm going to do dots, just to kind of show you guys the difference, and you can decide which way you want to go with it. It's completely up to you. So, let's see if you can see what I'm doing here. Anyway, how's you doing? Just finding your spot, pulling back on the trigger, slowly release the pin. Do it in a random pattern, straight line, totally up to you. Your decoy. So then, once you got your chest done, I just did freckles in kind of a random order. So now I'm just going to trace the existing details that are already on the decoy. And sometimes they're hard to see, especially if you put on a bunch of blocking, so kind of got to move the decoy around and kind of see them sometimes. So the way you control how big you want your line, so you'll start in close to get your small line and pull back off the decoy a little bit as you're spraying, and that'll give you a wider line. So you start out, so I don't know if you can see this very well, but start off with a small line and do a V, pull back, just like that. See, I didn't fill that in all the way. I'll come back across it a little further away. So you can kind of use your imagination too when you lose track of your details. You can make little C's, little V's, lines. Completely up to you. I mean, it's your decoy. I try and I usually reference a picture when I'm doing stuff like this to make it look more realistic. Hand mallards have so much detail work to them that you can. I'll tend to just stick with what the decoy already had going for it in the first place. So there we go. We got the wing patch done. So the back, towards the tail, I'll do the same thing I did in the front. I'll add dots. Actually, break it up. I'm gonna do dots. This is where you gotta really watch your trigger control when you're doing dots. I suggest when you're learning how to airbrush, take a piece of paper and practice your spraying dots and pulling lines before you get ripping on a decoy. You get better with practice, so the more you practice, the better you'll get. But anyway, let me start on the back patch, and then we'll shade a little bit. So again, I'm just making these with the existing pattern on the duck. Okay, so we got that one back side done, and so the back portion of the wings on a mallard is black, and you can add some highlight details in there when you're done if you want. Let's see here. Do that. All I'm doing is I'm holding the brush about 8 inches off the mallard itself, and then just pounding in some paint on the wing feathers. Let's see here. Also, I'll shade down the middle of the back, kind of break the back up a little bit, make it stand out a little bit more. And then underneath the tail, or towards the tail, the little pocket on the back, I'll add this little seams back here. Okay, just like that. Start to come to life, looking like a hen mallard, huh? Anyway, then tail feathers, I'll make solid lines down the tail. Shade anywhere that there would naturally be a shadow. And then, so from this point, you can run it just like that if you want. You can be done. I'm going to, personally myself, I'm going to add a little bit of color to the front. Basically, I'm holding my brush probably 18 inches off the bird, or off the decoy itself, and then just lightly making big circles around the outside of it. And that basically adds just a little bit of black to it and changes the appearance of the tan on there. It makes it look a little more darker brown. And so there you have it. Hen mallard, just like that. So it'll start out looking like that, end up looking like that. So like I was saying, guys, just, make sure you practice. Practice on a piece of paper before you can start going on decoys. It just makes it a little bit easier to apply it once you get your trigger control down. I've heard a lot of people that have a hell of a lot more experience airbrushing than me. It takes about 10 hours of practice with a new brush to get a feel for it and get your proper controls, know what it's going to do. And I can't reiterate enough, make sure your brush is clean. Every time you use it, clean it. Clean brush will give you much better work. When I first started out, I didn't apply that skill in my, or apply that technique, and my quality suffered quite a bit. I'm definitely not the best as far as decoy making goes, but I do what I can, and I try and make a pretty good product. And take your time with it, guys, and have fun. I appreciate you tuning in. My next episode is going to be on making Drake mallards. It's a little more involved. It's probably going to be more 4-parter, probably, just like the Harlequin decoys were. That's just because of all the color changes on the flocking, and there's a lot more shading that goes along with it. But anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in.